Yes, yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party, 101 ESPN. My name is Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett, and this program is loaded for bear, Jackson, because Jackson booked John Denton at 10:15, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Now, is he out in that Scottsdale? Is he in that Scottsdale for those GM meetings?
I'm not sure, but
Nice show prep
we can ask him when he comes on in the next segment.
Okay, fair enough. That's coming up at 10:15. I'm looking forward to it. Figure this out. We're going to figure this out because he was tweeting out quotes from the president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, and we'll see what the rumblings are. Out there, Jackson. I was at the Blues game last night, Blues and Jets. Mm-hmm. Did you get a chance to?
I watched the second period.
And saw a lot of glorious scoring opportunities, but why weren't you watching the first and third period?
I watched part of the third and then shut her down. I did not watch the first period.
Why is that?
I was doing stuff with my friends at the time. And
wow. Kind of bragging that you have friends.
Yeah, it's a big old brag. And,
what were you doing?
Playing video games with my friends.
314-399-9646. That's how you can text in. Air Comfort Service text line. Boy, I'll tell you what. This YouTube chat, it's getting more active than the text inbox.
That's great. Love people watching live.
Danny Jansen, McLovin, Droid Effects.
Where eye candy?
Where's Pee-Pee?
Don Pee-Pee's not there.
He's not in there. Wow, somebody else might take over today. How do I know that John Denton is in Scottsdale, but not the producer of the show that's from Droid Effects?
Yeah, that's a fair question. You know, sometimes you got to
I guess that gives us a confirmation. At least Droid Effects is reporting John Denton is in Scottsdale.
All right. Listen, it makes sense. I would think you would be, but I just didn't know. Well, maybe I got to look inward.
Because you were playing video games last night, and then you read that Nancy Drew thriller for the third period.
No, I didn't. So I didn't read last night.
Oh, okay.
Which is unfortunate.
Or were you tired, went to bed early?
No, I actually usually read before bed because I avoid the blue light. You know, that blue light can be bad for your sleep. So it's a good way to, settle in before bed. But I just didn't. The book's kind of getting a little eerie, a little creepy. And my apartment is, shockingly quiet. And so I kind of get scared.
Oh, boy.
When I read it before bed.
This is going to be a tough day.
This one's a little scarier.
This one's going to be tough.
It's kind of scary.
I mean, part of me wants to help you through. It's going to come through this text inbox. And then part of me just wants to read every single thing that comes through this text inbox.
That just makes me a little uneasy. I kind of need to read it when the sun's out.
What video games, though? That's from the 314.
Fortnite, baby. Fortnite OG map pack. I haven't played it in years, so my friends were playing. I said, I'll hop on with you fellas. Zip it, boy!
Watch some freaking Blues, you scrub. That's from Waterloo Mama's Boy.
I did. I watched it. What do you want me to do? I fired up the Bailey's app. It was wonderful as always.
How many wins per game did Winnipeg get last night? That's from Marsh's burner.
1. They got 2 points, though, which doesn't make sense.
I am telling you, and listen, and this isn't a Mike Greenberg. That was the most scoring opportunities I've ever seen in the history of hockey. But I can't recall, and you saw the second period, so I can actually talk to you about this and not just the people in the YouTube chat and in the Air Comfort Service text line. How many hashtag glorious scoring opportunities the Blues had, in between 9 to 11 minutes into the second period, and then not come away with a goal in the second period. Craig Berube was, in particular, critical of the second period performance, and the Blues were not able to convert in the second period. The Jets pulled away, got an empty netter, and how do you do? The winning streak comes to an end at 2. Jackson, it's time now for the Little Piddles Angry Beaver half and half. I assume it's a Blues question, so that's why I segued into it.
Well, I figured that you would, I don't know, when you think about the Little Pills half and half, they're much more at least I try for them to be more macro questions.
I respect that.
And I don't know how macro you can get on one of 82. You know what I'm saying? One game, there's not a unless someone got hurt.
What about the Jordan Binnington trade talk from the Hockey News and the talk show host in Edmonton about him possibly being of interest to the Edmonton Oilers, who are off to a very surprising slow start? I know it's a team that at this moment isn't scoring many goals. Do you know anybody who plays for the Oilers?
Matter of fact, I do. Connor McDavid and then Leon Draisaitl.
Look at that. Anybody who's critical of Jackson's hockey knowledge? How about that?
Take that.
How about that?
Yeah, I guess the question that I could ask from that.
Nice. So look at this. We're watching the Little Piddles Angry Beaver Half and Half be produced on the fly. And if you're in YouTube, you actually got to see it.
Because, that report has come out. Do you think it would be...
Jeremy Rutherford was just on TMA and said he would be very surprised by that, for the record.
I think most people would share JR's opinion. Would it make sense on both sides? Like, would the Blues be wanting to give away Benner, and then would the Oilers want to give away a lot of capital to get a goaltender?
The thing about it is the Blues aren't necessarily saying, hey, welcome to the Chicago Cubs from a decade ago. Mm-hmm. They're kind of rebuilding, but not like full-on explosion. And if you do that, you don't really have a lot of net-minding depth behind Joel Hofer.
Rookie. Yeah, rookie.
So that would be, along with having the high-priced defenseman, that would be problematic. It is intriguing. I mean, a lot of preseason prognostications had Laissez Oil winning the chalice to carry the dreams of Canadians from British Columbia all the way to, would you say, Nova Scotia or Newfoundland?
No, neither of those provinces have a squad.
No, I know, but coast to coast is what I'm saying.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, from Vancouver to Halifax.
God, that's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're kind of, anybody who's questioning your hockey knowledge or passion, I feel like you're just dunking on them in this first segment.
Right. Take that, Rivers.
Jamie Rivers. Get my phone ready to see if any texts come in. When I saw that this morning, I was surprised. Jeremy Rutherford had not heard it either when we asked him this on TMA about an hour ago. So, I don't know. If they were looking for a defenseman, I feel like that would be a nice trading partner. I don't know if they'd necessarily be knocking on the door here, but the net minding thing, I don't know how real that is 11 games into the season. Right. I mean, my thought on the Blues at this moment is they're either really good or really bad for the most part. I thought the Colorado game was kind of a game where it was like, last night they were flowing to start against a team that has owned them ever since they beat them in the first round in 2019. The Jets have just owned the Blues. I think they've played 14 times since they played in the playoffs. I'm looking at you as if you're going to give me a confirmation.
I just stand here and smile.
You're just picturing Dame time. But the Blues have not had much success against the Jets since beating them in 2019. And they were in control of the early first period. And then that call went against them. And Brandon Saad and power play goal from Scheifele, and then off we go. So that was unfortunate. Then they fell behind 2-0 before Robert Thomas got his 5th of the year. Disappointing because you see a team having some momentum and then a call. I thought it was a little questionable myself. Jeremy Rutherford didn't think it was as questionable. Either way, that's when things turn. So the Jordan Binnington thing, a separate conversation. It surprised me. I don't know how real it is, but Jeremy Rutherford, for the record, we asked him, and he just didn't. He was not aware of that really percolating throughout the NHL at this moment. Either way, the Oilers off to a super slow start. All right, John Denton is going to join us per Droid Effects from Scottsdale in the next segment, and we will get his thoughts on what John Mozeliak has had to say and where things stand with this free agent market. My understanding is Katie Wu was on the opening drive this morning, said highly unlikely the Cardinals would be getting into the Yamamoto and Nola waters. She thought more Sonny Gray. We'll see what John Denton thinks. He's going to join us next here on Balloon Party, driven by Munganess Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN and YouTube. Welcome back. Jackson, this YouTube chat room at this point,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's turned into a Discord.
it really has.
Little Discord server going on. I love to see it.
McLovin opened things up by saying, let's get this bread, boy. Ain't no way morning drive is taking it away from the greatest hour of sports. This is the greatest hour of sports?
Can you name a better one?
I mean, I like that hour of Game 6, 2011 World Series, 9th, 10th, 11th innings.
Close second.
To Balloon Party.
And when I say balloon, like this current one, the one we're currently doing.
Okay. Well, maybe that's because John Denton joins right now. And as reported by YouTube chat member Droid Effects, he is in Scottsdale, Arizona. Good morning, John.
Hey, Tim, how are you? It's a lot of pressure with the greatest hour in sports to live up to.
Yeah, well, this is something that we believe in you. Jackson believes in you. And I think we're going to have a wonderful little conversation here. So there, all pressure's off. It's up to me and Jackson. It's up to me and Jackson.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Hey, this conversation regarding the Cardinal pitching and John Mozeliak's comments that you were tweeting on Monday afternoon certainly got a lot of attention. And I think part of it may have been initial, I guess, confusion or perhaps a misunderstanding when he said the payroll would be the same. You hit the hole with the tweet explaining that essentially when you consider the 40-man roster and where the Cardinal payroll is right now, the Cardinals have $57 million inside the budget right now to spend to tend to the starting pitching for 2024. Am I accurately representing your interpretation of John Mozeliak's thoughts?
Yeah, Tim. When a team goes 71 and 91, nobody wants to hear the words "very similar" in any sort of vein, And when John Mozeliak says the payroll is going to be very similar to what it was last year, I knew that would go over like a lead balloon with the fans, But you have to consider that they were projected to have a payroll close to $200 million last year. It was going to be the first time ever they were going to get close to that. It was going to be the highest payroll in history. Well, things went bad. They traded all 5 pitchers at the deadline. They didn't add at the deadline. Usually they're buyers at the deadline instead of sellers. So that payroll ended up coming in at like a 176. But if you look at maybe getting close to 200 again, that gives them $57 million. They may not be in the market for the guys that the fans want because, John Mozeliak said multiple times on Monday when he talked to us, we need volume. I mean, they're not a team that's one pitcher away. They're a team that's 2 starters at least away and 2 bullpen arms away. So they have to use their money to fill a lot of spots. They can't go out and throw $35, $40 million at Yamamoto and be done for the offseason. Like, they've got to get at least 2 starters, maybe 3, and then you got to go out and get a couple of bullpen arms because you traded away a bunch of those guys too. So they have to be smart with how they spend their money. I know that's not what fans want to hear. It's probably going to knock them out of that top tier, but if they can come away with, 2 bullpen arms and 2 mid-tier guys, they will make their team a lot better.
So I want to go through kind of specific names on who would be considered top tier. You already said Yamamoto. I would imagine then you also would include who is going to win the Cy Young, barring a surprise, and Blake Snell. Would you include Aaron Nola there? And those are the top tier for the purpose of the discussion, and therefore you think the Cardinals would not be in on any of those 3. Is that fair to say?
I think they're. I think Snell and Yamamoto will definitely be out of their ballpark. I know they like Nola. He fits the bill of a Cardinal. 6'6", right-handed. That sounds like somebody who maybe just left the team. I think Nola could fit into that range, but they don't know what the market's going to be. One caveat in this is, you have to understand, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Mets, the Cardinals, teams that are traditionally used to winning, used to spending money, those teams didn't make the playoffs this year. They're hungry to flip the narrative. They're hungry to do whatever it takes. And, the Cardinals are never going to outbid any of those teams. The Dodgers got knocked out after the first round. The Braves had an early exit. Those are teams that spend money. This market could be crazy, and maybe they're not in the ballpark for those if the market, goes through the roof.
John Denton, MLB.com, our guest. He is live in Scottsdale, Arizona. Baseball GM meetings going on there, and he is giving us his perspective on the news regarding this offseason. One of the things that intrigues me about this offseason is the Cardinals are in such a unique spot. Yes, those teams didn't make the playoffs, but they also didn't finish in last place. And so that 71 wins you made reference to have fans with expectations of the Cardinals really making a statement and I think acquiring one of the big names. And so if that isn't going to happen, you are inevitably going to have a frustrated fan base, portion of it at the very least, get more frustrated. So then if it isn't going to be one of those Snell, Yamamoto, maybe Nola, as you made reference to, because the competition for him from those big market teams that didn't reach their expectations, then does it fall to something along the lines of a Sonny Gray in Minnesota yesterday saying that they were lowering payroll, and does that take them out of the mix to keep Sonny Gray? And does that mean the Cardinals start zeroing in on him as one of, or perhaps their starting signing for this offseason?
Yeah, I found that to be very, very significant news yesterday. You know, Minnesota's saying that they're going to go down in payroll. You would think that pretty much knocks them out of Sonny Gray. I mean, the qualifying offer was $20 million, and it's only going to go up from there. So Sonny Gray, I mean, you know, just turned 34 yesterday. He's probably going to start at $25 million a year. Like, it's going to be crazy money. You know, Jordan Montgomery has pitched his way into a $25 million a year contract. Yeah, so it may not be the top tier, but, you know, I think the Cardinals are, you know, who knows where they're going with this. But I think they think if they could come out of this with a Sonny Gray and a Jordan Montgomery, that they would be better off.
So Sonny Gray, Jordan Montgomery, and then a possibility of a trade? Or do you think then they would turn their attention, if they've allocated $50 million, then to the bullpen, because that would put them at approximately $7 million remaining from that projected budget of $200?
Yeah, you know, the trade market is a big part of this that, you know, we're kind of overlooking. There's so much focus on free agency, but, you know, I think the Cardinals can do their best work in the trade market. It's just going to be painful, you know. If you're talking about Tyler Glasnow or Shane Bieber or Logan Gilbert, you know, those teams are going to tell them, like, don't call back unless you're willing to put Nolan Gorman in the trade. And, you know, you just got to ask yourself, can we live with Nolan Gorman going to Seattle and hitting 45 home runs? Can you live with Nolan Gorman going to Tampa Bay and hitting 50 home runs? They need pitching, but, man, it's going to be painful.
And so my question now is, what do you think is going to get all of the action going? The Cardinals made a couple minor league moves 48 hours ago, but we've seen in the past off seasons one domino had to fall to then open up the door to get everybody else going. What timeline do you think that will be, and who is it? Is it as simple as, Shohei Ohtani and then everybody else? How do you see it, John?
Yeah, it's you know, it starts with Shohei, starts and ends with Shohei, and, you know, he's going to set his own market. He's going to set a market that doesn't even apply to any of these other guys. There are franchises, you know, Seattle's always been a team that pounces early. There'll be a couple of teams that'll make a move early, and, you know, they'll put out a deal to a guy and say, take it now or it's gone. You know, maybe the Cardinals do that with Yamamoto. Maybe they give him a deal early and see if he'll take it. But, you know, free agency doesn't always work like that. I mean, he knows he's going to get paid. He's going to wait for the highest dollar. Jordan Montgomery is represented by Scott Boras. You know, they're not going to take a penny less than they can get. They're not going to jump at the first offer. You know, maybe you try to get somebody early, but I just think with, you know, the quality of pitching that's on the market, they're going to wait this thing out and get every dollar they can.
Would there be a one-year opportunity for a reclamation project of some kind to fill out the rotation if they are able to get two of the, I guess we'll call them bigger names, not necessarily, you're saying not necessarily Snell or Yamamoto, but would there be a candidate in that category that would make sense?
Tim, could I interest you in a guy named Jack Flaherty?
I was wondering if you would say that. My goodness, if the Cardinals only brought in Sonny Gray and Jack Flaherty, I just am going to spend all offseason reading your Twitter mentions.
Yeah, that's going to be ugly if that happens. Now, you know, they know they've got to do more than that. They know they've got to land a couple of big pieces. But there are guys, you know, Michael Wacha, you probably could get him for 2 years, bring him back. Jack Flaherty, you know, pitched his way into probably a 1-year, 2-year deal. He's going to have to do a prove-it type deal before he lands the kind of money he's looking for. So John Mozeliak did say on Monday, one of the things that excites him is there are a lot of tiers here. There's obviously the upper crust. There's that second level, but there's also the 1-year prove-it guys, the 2-year prove-it guys, So they can do a lot of different things. And the reason they're casting a big net, they're not saying we want this guy or that guy because they don't know what the market's going to be. They don't know what the demand's going to be. So, there are tiers, and that could be maybe your 5th starter. That maybe could be your 4th starter, a guy on a 1-year or 2-year prove-it type deal.
John Denton, our guest live from Scottsdale, Arizona. Baseball's GM meeting is going on. I have 2 more abstract questions, but I really am curious what your opinion is on this. How cognizant are the Cardinals of the frustration of the fan base, and how much does that factor into their aggression for this 2023-2024 offseason?
I think they're very cognizant of it. I think they saw the empty seats. I think there was a lot of embarrassment and frustration in the front office that they thought, let this thing get off the rails. They had 15 winning seasons in a row, and this organization, this front office, this coaching staff, they're the ones it falls on. Like, it ended with them. I think they feel the pressure to get it back right. They understand that the fans are upset. One thing John Mozeliak said the other day, he said one thing they have to factor in was they didn't sell as many tickets last year. So they are cognizant of the empty seats that were out there. But, I know nobody wants to hear this, but pleasing the fans is not number one on their list this offseason. Like, they want to make the team better in the way that they see fit. But like I said, they are cognizant that the fans are upset. The fans have expectations of this franchise winning. It's just, you can expect this team to win all you want, but that doesn't mean you're going to pay $35 million for Yoshi Yamamoto. Like, they're 2 different things almost.
And a final one, although this really could be like its own hour-long podcast. One of the things that I'm observing is if the Cardinals are committed, and Mozeliak said that they're committed to returning to contention next year, and then you have the competition you made reference to in the market for this pitching this year, you're going to have a unique spot in which you have Goldschmidt in his final year, Arenado turning 33, and then Wilson Contreras also will be in his early and then mid-30s as his deal progresses. And if you're going to lock up one of these pitchers, you're going to have these guys, for assuming we're talking about long-term deals in order to get them to St. Louis, you could be really allocating a big portion of the 2020s decade on this offseason. And you got to hit. And if you don't, you could have some contracts that could be considered albatrosses on the back end of the decade that could hamstring the ability to compete in the back end of the decade. And so my question is, John, how aggressive will they be to try to make it work in 2024, albeit while, in my opinion, I'm not saying that this is yours, but my opinion, they could be putting themselves in position to have these guys under contract in the back end of their 30s. And at that point, Goldschmidt and Arenado and Contreras, for that matter, are no longer at the peaks of their career, or in the case of Goldschmidt, most likely retired. My point being, I think it's a risky offseason. Yeah,
no doubt about that. I mean, their primes are running out. Like, the Cardinals know that, Paul Goldschmidt is 36 now. Nolan Arenado has no time to sit around and wait on a 2 or 3 year rebuild. Like, he made that abundantly clear at the end of the season. He needs to win now. He wants to win now. So they are in a spot where they got to go out and spend. They got to get back in contention because these guys' prime is running out. But, how much can they spend is just, debatable. And like you said, you don't want to saddle yourself into this hole where you have all these guys in their mid to late 30s making, tons of money. So you're right, John. I mean, it's a very hard off season. Everything is on the line. I think John Mozeliak knows that the next decade of this franchise may be riding on this offseason. There's so much on the line for this franchise. It is a critical offseason.
I share that opinion with you. I will look forward to your coverage throughout the course of this offseason, and we'll keep an eye on what happens with Shohei Ohtani, not necessarily for St. Louis, but once that happens, then I would imagine the Cardinals will be active because that is when these pitchers will start to go, most likely. John Denton, MLB.com, our guest live from Scottsdale at baseball's GM meetings. John, always appreciate the time. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
Take it easy. That's John Denton with us here on 101 ESPN and on YouTube, giving us his perspective on the state of the Cardinals' free agent pursuits at this moment. Your thoughts on what John had to say? 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line, and you're also welcome to participate in the YouTube chat. And Jackson, you say it's like Discord in there?
For real, yeah. It's like a Discord server. There's actually a groundswell of support for Tiny PP to become the new president of baseball operations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was going on in there. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's he's surging.
I think the progression, the pipeline from YouTube chat member of Balloon Party to, GMs or president of baseball operations is robust.
I agree. I like that. Robust.
Thanks.
That's a word that's very popular with Cardinal fans right now. Robust. I like that. Nice. Thank you for bringing it to the table. We have the Little Piddles Half and Half presented by Angry Beaver, and your thoughts on what John Denton had to say coming up. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mug & S Burkhardt Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues lose last night. Final score of 5-2 to the Winnipeg Jets, also known as wins per game. The Blues will be back in action tomorrow night, taking on the Arizona Coyotes. You can catch that game right here at the home of the Blues, 101 ESPN pregame at 6 p.m., puck drop at 7. That was another Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Best of both worlds. Who sang it?
Miley Cyrus. Oh, Hannah Montana, I'm sorry. Okay, but she did sing a song called Best of Both Worlds.
Do you think this audience is thinking of the Hannah Montana version?
I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions. That's not what I do, because you know what happens when you assume.
Who else sang Best of Both Worlds?
No idea.
I'm going to fold. I think you're being serious.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if this artist could mean any more to St. Louis.
Nellie Moe?
Excuse me?
Nellie Moe?
As in Cornell Hayes Jr.?
Yeah.
Nellie?
You said mean more to St. Louis.
I know.
Chuck Berry?
No. All reasonable guesses. Non-St. Louis. He's in
Metallica?
Now you're just playing on stereotypes, and I don't appreciate it, especially as a South St. Louis
so you
guy.
say a musician so important to St. Louis, but they're not from here.
That's right. Well, then you just went Metallica.
Well, they showed their footprint this weekend. Last weekend? Either way.
Sammy Hagar and Van Halen.
Nice. Okay.
Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of them.
But you initially went Hannah Montana.
Yeah, this is how my brain works. That's
All hell's breaking loose.
Well, but I wasn't wrong. Like, she sings a song called Best. It was like the theme song of the damn show. I'm 25 years old. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't alive when the Beatles were producing music, and I'm still familiar with their work.
So am I. I love
And
the
most
Beatles.
people would say, I'll take Van Halen over Beatles.
Really? Who would say such a thing?
Sure, if I say 314-399-9646, I'll find some.
Music is so subjective. Like, I don't think there is such a thing as good or bad music. It's what you like or don't like. More so than any other art form out there.
Okay, fine. You know what I'm not going to have today? This argument with you.
I wasn't even looking to get into an
I
argument.
don't even know who's in there right now.
It seems vacant.
It does seem vacant. Whoever, I'll argue with whoever's in there about it. I do want to talk about what John Denton had to say. That caught some of our listeners off guard, probably like the Miley Cyrus thing. To hear him to say, the Cardinals are out on Yamamoto and Snell. Now, he may feel that way. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way that it is, because I believe I cited both on TMA and on Balloon Party yesterday an ESPN.com column with all of their ball writers in which Buster Olney said that he thought that Snell would go to St. Louis. So... now, Passan thought Snell would go to Philadelphia because it's his expectation that Nola leaves Philadelphia. I also thought, but I had so many questions for John, I didn't want to go into semantics, but he said the Cardinals are out on, in his opinion, Yamamoto and Snell, but he thought they were still live for Nola. And I would consider Nola in the same tier of pitchers. But when the conversation continued, and he's talking Sonny Gray, and then I said, what about a one-year reclamation project? And he says, Jack Flaherty, sweet mother of mercy. If that were to be what this offseason produces. I actually, here's the thing. I would prefer they do short-term deals and kind of see what happens.
No,
and I'm noticing this. I don't know how many of the texts you've read during the program, but a surprisingly larger number of people are coming to the table with the idea of being pro rebuild. Like if it's going to be Sonny Gray and Jack Flaherty, just trade Arenado and Goldschmidt, and if somebody will take Contreras, and then just let's rebuild.
Terrible.
And I'm kind of like, if you were saying this in the commercial break. I don't need to tell you what you said in the commercial. You tell me what you said in the commercial break.
About Waka or about the state?
Well, we talk about Waka, and you said, that's interesting. I said, yeah, I think that one, certainly. That if you can do short-term deals if you want to try to catch lightning in a bottle, if you're not going to trade Arenado, Goldschmidt, Contreras, then yeah, I would rather see that than going, okay, let's go all in, except we're going all in with 5-year deals when these guys won't be around or they're aging, and yet you're still paying them.
Right.
And so therefore, economically, it's not about me trying to save the Cardinals money. It's about the dollars impacting the performance on the field. And I'm saying that one isn't matching up with the other. They need pitching. They don't have young options on the staff. They're committed to questionable. I certainly don't want to put Michaelis in the class of Matz, but God, I mean, those are two that you're already putting in ink for the rotation next year. And then you still need at least 2 spots, if not 3. And it used to be 3, and now I'm noticing the goalposts are kind of moving a little bit. Now we're talking about 2. Either way, it's just can it happen? Of course it can happen. But it is such a long shot that if you're going to commit that much of your financial resources to long-term deals to try to make it happen in 1-year window, it strikes me as really putting the franchise at risk. So that is why I am more pro either short-term deals and then see if you can catch lightning in a bottle, or just going, okay, it ain't going to happen. We shouldn't have said what we said this year. We're going to have to go through a rebuild. And if you're knowing Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, you're like, oh, good, they got Sonny Gray and Jack Flaherty. Let's go get them. No. So and that's the thing. My actual thought is they're going to wind up doing something that's going to hurt the franchise down the road. But it might provide short-term gratification to the fan base. That's why I asked John about the Cardinals' level of awareness/concern over the fan base's frustration.
Right. And I feel like you'd just be better served with the short-term deals just based on your 2 superstars in Arenado and Goldschmidt.
But you got to be able to get the guys who are only going to be able to accept short-term deals. That's not a lot of guys.
Right. And that's why I think I'd be weary of the trade market, because I would be he talked about Nolan Gorman needing to be included in certain deals. I don't think that's wise.
God, I would not. Here's the situation specific to Gorman. If I'm operating on the premise, which I obviously am, that the Cardinals have what percentage to win the World Series, and again, we don't know what they're going to do this offseason, but if he's already saying, they're not going to be in on
single digits.
Oh, well, hell yeah, single digits. I mean, even some of the best teams in baseball would be single digits. But if we're operating on a 1 or 2 out of 100, which would probably be pretty high, that they can win the World Series in 2024. When you look at the landscape of the dollars that are committed and the fact that there are only 2 starters, and those 2 starters are named Steven Matz and Miles Michaelis, then I'm going, okay, it's not going to happen next year. So I'm not going to risk years beyond next year, not just with dollars allocated, but also removing cost-controlled. I don't even call him a prospect at this point. Nolan Gorman has proven that he's a power hitter at the major league level. So that's who I make sure I keep on the roster. See what I'm saying? Do you follow me on this, or am I?
No, I mean, it's you can't, like you say you can compete, but there's a finite amount of actual pitching talent that will help you compete in 2024, and they're going to cost a lot of money with other people in the market wanting them. And so you don't want to do that. You don't want to trade for guys because you give up someone like Gorman, who you don't want to if you really don't think that these guys are going to be impact for 2024. And then you sign guys who are 1-2 year deals who probably, it's like they're stuck in such a rock and a hard place if they're saying they're going to compete in 2024.
Right, which is why, for the life of me, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But hey, it doesn't mean you can't go. I mean, hell, they said we're going to increase the payroll last year. And so, it's not like that's like a blood oath. It's just to be a couple of straight years of, I would like it. I personally would like it. But I know that they already have such negative fan approval right now that if you were to do that, I mean, can you imagine if they traded Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt? Holy crap, what would go on? Except I think it's the right move. I just don't think. The other thing that I think is important in this conversation, and I want to make it clear, this is completely speculative, But the Bill DeWitt Jr., the chairman of the organization, is not somebody who's going, oh, let's see what we can do in 3 years. That's not his mindset. It hasn't been his mindset. And also, he is in his 80s, and you're not sitting there going, oh, let's go through a rebuild. So if that is not, I also think he's been a great steward of the franchise. I guess that's somehow an unpopular opinion, but holy crap, the run the Cardinals have had under his watch, I don't know how it can't be considered that, but I know it's not. People say DeWallet and all that stuff. I just think part of being a great steward of the franchise is also going, okay, this is actually what we have. We're in a bad spot, and that doesn't mean we go out and compound our errors by financially restricting ourselves for years beyond now. That is why I would like to see them. If they're not going to be, Yamamoto is intriguing to me because of his age.
Right.
The others, I mean, Nola isn't going to be 31 until the middle of next year. I don't know. I mean, listen, if it's Nola, Montgomery, and then a reclamation project, okay. Hey,
a lot of money, though.
That's great. But are you going to be able to do that for $57 million before you even tend to the bullpen?
Right.
And if you look at the Rangers and Diamondbacks, one of which I think was a big surprise to be in the World Series, and the other one, how they got there, Sans, Jacob deGrom, was surprising. What did they have in common? And they had guys coming in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th innings, and for the most part, just shutting teams down. And that's the same way the Kansas City Royals got there 7 years ago when they were able to win a World Series against the New York Mets, I guess 8 years ago now. Your thoughts are welcome. 314-399-9646. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mug and S. Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and on the 101 ESPN channel on YouTube. 10:55 in St. Louis. This time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett. Jackson, we have, 4 minutes. Hell, I don't know. What do you want to do with it? Yeah, we've talked a lot of Cardinals and a lot of Blues hockey. Blues and Coyotes. Tomorrow night, pregame, 6 p.m. right here on 101 ESPN. You've prepared this half and half. It's presented by Angry Beaver. You have 4 minutes to maximize it. It's now your Sadie Hawkins. You walk across the square dance and you pick the cutest boy in the room.
Sure. I'm going to bring up a topic we were literally just talking about in the commercial break because it was in my Little Piddles half and half. This moment in Piddles history. Last week, whilst dreaming of Missouri going all the way to the national title, I did. Either way, I was doing some research on recent college football champions. 20 years ago, there was a split championship. Of course, my sports consciousness begins in 2006.
Right. So everybody in the audience knows that.
So I was unaware of this. What the hell was that about? Do you have much memory?
Like a Seinfeld bit?
Well, do you have much memory of the split championships and all that?
We were just talking about Georgia, this being their last home game, because we really got our eyes on Georgia minus 10.5 this Saturday night between the hedges against Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dort, and Ole Miss. Hotty toddy, good God almighty. And you made the point that it's senior night for these defending national champions, because then they head to Knoxville, and then they head to Atlanta. And I said, man, when's the last time Georgia Tech beat Georgia? And you said...
I would have to think when they had Calvin Johnson or something, because I can't
feel
think.
Like there had to have been an upset somewhere before Calvin Johnson. But then I brought up Bobby Ross at Georgia Tech, splitting a national title in 90, 91. It might have been with the 5th down Colorado Buffaloes. 97, Brian Greasy and the Michigan Wolverines with Charles Woodson split the national championship with Grant Wistrom and Nebraska, courtesy of Shevin Wiggins and Matt Davison and the flea kicker in Columbia, Missouri. So, yes, that happened, and the coaches poll would vote one team number one, and the AP poll would vote another team number one. That's how it happened.
I got the last time... I'm trying to find out when the last time...
So when you said you had it, that was actually a lie.
I thought I did. 2016.
There was a little sneaker, wasn't there?
Yeah, and that was in Athens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That might have been the end of Mark Richt, if I had to guess.
Yeah,
was he already gone at that point? That couldn't have been Kirby Smart.
No, it definitely wasn't. Kirby didn't get there until I feel like 17 or 18.
Who was that? Vince Dooley?
I don't have the coaches up. I'm sorry, but Tech also beat them in 14.
Wow.
That was obviously they were going through it in 13 and 14.
Well, they were number 6 in the country when Missouri beat them in Athens.
Yeah.
So what's your question? You just wanted to talk Georgia Tech football?
Well, whenever I hear people complain about soccer, it's like, oh, there's ties, and it's like, okay, nice, but they had split national championships before, I guess, but the 03 was BCS, was it not?
It might have been the end of it.
Okay.
Because the BCS would end it, because the BCS position via the computers 1 versus 2.
I thought
the issue was conference commitments to bowls.
Right. Like the Rose Bowl.
So if the best team in the country was in the Big Ten and the second best team was in the SEC, they wouldn't play because the SEC team would be in the Sugar Bowl. And I know. I was on the air sharing your disgust with this.
So weird.
That's what it was. And then they would get together and then they would vote on who the national champion was.
So I remember in 05, a little bit before my sports consciousness,
Talking
I remember
about Vince Young and Matt Leinhorn and Reggie Bush.
And that was the Rose Bowl, and that was the national championship.
And it was a game for the ages. It was 2 teams for the ages.
Absolutely. But, why was the Rose Bowl the national championship? But that makes sense.
Yes.
God, we're in a much better place
We
now.
are with the playoff.
Yeah, it's so much better.
Incredibly unfortunate that it does not exist this year, because then I would have this emotional leverage of this Saturday at 2:30 in Columbia, Missouri, because Missouri really, if they went out, would be a top 12 team, and they would be in the playoff.
Yep.
But alas, now it's like, maybe they get to play in the Citrus Bowl, or maybe they get to play in a New Year's Six, and the championship dreams are dashed. But you know what? That's what makes the college football regular season wonderful. It matters. Sure. Meanwhile, in baseball, we have an extended grapefruit league from April through October.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And then they get together and play the NCAA tournament with 12 teams. Unbelievable. Anyway, Jackson, I'm angry again. It's time for us to go, though. BK and Ferrari are up next for Action Jackson. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton, Toyota on 101 ESPN and the wonderful people in the 101 ESPN YouTube chat.